Andres, thank you for joining me once again for a weekly wrap-up.
Not a problem, Kai. I'll be here as always.
Okay, so we're starting this one off. This whole discussion today really will be around Sitecore. They've just had Sitecore Symposium 2022. I was hoping and half expecting more clarity on like where Sitecore is heading with their sort of, aggressive acquisition strategy and pivoting towards a more like a Mac composable DXP type deal. And we've got, as we'll come to find out in these next few minutes, we've got some clarity on the fact that they're still going down that route. They're still releasing these sort of cloud-based SaaS products for this sort of DXP Mac composable architecture that the company's looking for right now. But at the same time, what's happening, Andres? Talk to me, man. What do you think about this first article we've got here, which is Sitecore, the future of XM and Content Hub, published on CMS Wire?
Yeah, so after reading this article, it was a really solid article that kind of explained, as I always said, what Sitecore is kind of doing right now. But towards the end of the article, it kind of raised a pretty important question. What does this mean for everything else Sitecore has done up to this point? So the future of XM and Content Hub. So talks about, as I mentioned, Sitecore Sim last week, all of the latest acquisitions they've had, and how they've started to integrate all those products into Sitecore. Okay, perfect. But it mentioned that also Sitecore XP, which is like Sitecore Experience Platform, the kind of all-in-one content management, digital marketing platform, etc. That's still available. That's still getting installed on premises. So Sitecore is moving towards cloud, SaaS-based products, etc. But
so that means, sorry to interrupt you, that means that they're actively still selling it, actively still implementing it, according to this article.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which kind of raises an interesting point. So, okay, on the one side, Sitecore is acquiring all the products. They clearly recognize that composable is the future, block architecture is the future, and they need to be doubling on this. But it seems as if they're still kind of caught in two minds in a way, where it's like, okay, we're gonna acquire, and they've gone the acquisition route to kind of get those like SaaS-based products and stuff like that. That's fine. They definitely have the money to do it. But if they're going to continue this, because like the article kind of mentions that Sitecore ensures 8 years of support and general availability after the latest release of this product. So 10.2, which is the most recent version of XP, that was released in November 2021. So there's going to be varying levels of support all the way until 2029. So this includes things like product version upgrades, security updates and fixes, addressing any defects or patches, things like that you would expect from like an enterprise product. But the fact that they haven't, I think one of the things Sitecore has failed to do so far is send a clear message of what's going to happen to solutions like XP, like this on-premise, regular, more legacy version of Sitecore, if you will. What's going to happen to it? Like, you're making all these new acquisitions. And they even mention Sitecore XM. So Sitecore XM is basically Sitecore XP, but with all the digital marketing features. So you don't get as much personalization, A/B testing, and stuff like that. It's mostly just the content management system. And even a few months ago, they kind of released a statement about Sitecore XM Cloud, which is like a cloud-based SaaS version of XM, like just the CMS. So when I first saw that, that led me to believe that, yeah, they're definitely going 100% down this cloud-based solution. Pretty soon they're going to say, okay, cool, we're going to stop with XP and any of our other on-premise systems. We're going to be completely cloud-based. But they haven't really done that. And all the new products is kind of just confusing, more confusing than before.
Yeah, confusing is the word. And the thing that seems missing is like the off-ramp, right? So they've obviously got tons and tons of customers on their sort of legacy, XP and XM, the on-premise stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What happens to them? I've seen, maybe there's been internal messaging to their customers, maybe, but we haven't really seen any of that. And we work with a few, Sitecore-aligned companies. They haven't heard much either from that. And so I just wonder, like, where is the off-ramp? As you mentioned, they've got support up until 2029 for those platforms. But if you are buying in and you are pivoting and you are seeing the future as Mac and composable and cloud-based, then where's the off ramp for those customers, right? And why implementation is still happening for that on-premise stuff? Not that will ever go away. Like on-premise will never totally go away. There's many use cases for it. Security-wise, there's going to be many, governments and large companies who want to keep the on-premise forever, maybe. So I don't think it's necessarily an issue that it's still there, but the fact that there hasn't been some sort of clear roadmap for companies who are already there or have recently implemented it, before Sitecore made this pivot, this sort of more public pivot, is just confusing to me, because the message I'm getting is, yes, we recognize where the market is going, and we've spent billions, I think, over, or I would say billions, but I can't confirm that, but many millions on acquiring these SaaS products and integrating them into their ecosystem and building sort of this walled garden of SaaS products. And it's just like, where are you dedicated to that? Because it doesn't seem like it with this this other sort of arm that's still continuing to push the more legacy platforms, right? And so if I'm looking at this from a perspective of a buyer who has been convinced by the Mac and composable and best of breed sort of messaging has been so strong over the last few years, I'm looking at Sitecore and thinking, okay, this is one of the companies that all these Mac and SaaS products have been warning me against, the legacy system, right? The legacy monolith. Sitecore is that. Sitecore is changing to not be that at some point. But me as a buyer, I'm looking at it and thinking, well, all that stuff is still there. Are they dedicated to this? That kind of thing. So I feel like Sitecore have not been. They're giving conflicting messages, and I'm not sure how healthy it is for them. On the flip side, I could definitely understand the fact that a huge chunk of enterprises, large companies in general, governments, that kind of thing, are accustomed to and have not yet made the cultural jump or technological jump to saying, hey, we're going to move into the cloud. We're going to build our stack from scratch. We're going to choose all our different little SaaS products for here and there. We're going to build it ourselves. A lot of them don't want that, or have not been convinced that's the best way forward for them. And we've spoken in the past how the headless CMS space and the Mac composable space is growing massively, but the monolithic platform still hold the vast majority of the pie, right? Yeah. So that's the counter argument. It's not a mystery. The counter argument is, a huge chunk of Sitecore's customer base will be on those systems. They're still not convinced to leave those systems. So that's it. I'm just talking about from the perspective of Sitecore convincing newer customers or forward-thinking, more ambitious customers who want to do this whole Mac composable headless thing. I'm finding the messaging difficult, not so palatable from that perspective, right? That's what I mean. So that sort of leads us into our second point here, our second story, which is again from Sitecore. They've released 3 new cloud products and services. The first of which is Sitecore Search, Content Hub 1, and then Sitecore Connect. Content Hub 1 is the more interesting one. Do you want to give us a quick breakdown on that, Andres?
Yeah, so Content Hub 1, and this is directly from Sitecore, what they say about it. It's for brands that are looking for an entryway into digital experience delivery versus a holistic marketing strategy. So Content Hub 1 is an agile headless CMS system that allows brands to launch and manage experiences on digital channels, web, mobile, smart displays, etc. And just picking up on what you kind of mentioned there, even with this thing of Content Hub 1 and these new products that they've released, it kind of, I think and this could just be because just the vast size of what Sitecore is in the content management space. But I think with all these latest acquisitions, these products and announcements and things like that, Sitecore is catering to a very, very large audience. Essentially saying we can cater to everyone, and from on the outside looking in, and they could be having these conversations with potential enterprises contacting and saying, hey, they're interested in Sitecore, etc. But like just from seeing like the announcements, the acquisitions, even what's on the Sitecore site, it's not clear what each thing is for, who and what each thing is for. So like like XM, XP, who's it for? The latest acquisition, who's it for? It's like, okay, we have all this stuff, but then if you're a potential enterprise business looking at this, like you're looking for a new CMS, or even if you're already on Sitecore and you're thinking about something else, it's not clear which of these things is for who. And I think that's part of the confusion.
Yeah, for sure it is. And again, I just look at the other headless CMS players, other headless commerce players, and their approach to the market is, look how simple we are as a product, right? We're a headless CMS, we've decoupled your front and back end. Okay, now we may be sort of hybrid where we've got some marketing features for you, but we're a simple product. We're going to handle your content and we're going to do a great job at it. Oh, you want analytics, you want search, you want a CRM. That we don't do that, but we will do a great job of integrating with them. We're API first, so that's, you can go and choose the product you want, right? So a company seeing that is like, okay, I know exactly what you are and what you're not, and I can now decide whether we want to build out a whole DXP ourselves, right? But at least I know what they're getting. With Sitecore, as you're mentioning, it's like, okay, Content Hub 1 is now here, which is basically the cloud version of Content Hub. Yeah. Again, is there an off-ramp for Content Hub customers to get onto Content Hub 1? If so, where is it? They haven't mentioned it. I'm looking at this and thinking, you can't be both the solution, because again, the headless space, it kind of almost built on the back of the boogeyman that is the monolith, right? Yeah. The monolith is the boogeyman, is causing issues. Let's strip everything down and make everything microservices, and we can build from there. You can build from there. Sitecore is now saying, hey, you can do that with us, but at the same time, we're still the boogeyman. We've still got everything like crushed into one, plus the whole on-premise monolith stuff. If I'm a buyer, it's confusing me. It's kind of scaring me. I'm not really sure where their focus is, So yeah, it's a really tough one. I do admire the fact that they've acquired so many tools and they're trying to build this sort of ecosystem. But at the same time, I just get the feeling like if somebody wants to go down the Mac headless API first route, then they want to build piece by piece. They don't want this avalanche of things from one company, which simultaneously also has a monolith, sort of hidden away in the back room. Mm-hmm. That's how it kind of feels right now. But yeah, that's basically our Sitecore coverage for the week. It's probably not the Sitecore employees listening to this may not love this episode, but that is how we feel right now about the news coming out. Before we move on to the next topic, anything else to add, Andres, or we covered it?
No, I think we've covered it for today on Sitecore. Yeah.
Okay. So why don't let's move into our third and final story from DXP Report this week, which was from Front Commerce, how to migrate, ironically, from a monolith to headless commerce platform. I thought this article was really good. It was very simple, but I liked all the bullet points. I think if you are on a monolithic platform right now looking to migrate away, I think this is actually really good sort of first article to read. They've got some nice little infographics and good bullet points and stuff like that. Andres, what do you think?
Yeah, I think last week we spoke about the lack of structure in one article, and I think this one has a really great structure. How to migrate from monolith to headless commerce starts off immediately. Why migrate in the first place? Why you want to migrate to headless commerce? Think about changing customer demands and things like that. Then some of the reasons why you may have your outdated technology. There's a lot of maintenance, security issues, and then that's why you want to move away. But then, okay, you say you want to move away. Why do you want to go to headless? You can control and lower your costs. You don't have to re-platform. Mentions all those great things, and then kind of breaks down the whole what does headless architecture look like, because I know sometimes that can be confusing for people, like what's the difference between headless versus like a monolithic system. They do a really good job with that infographic there. And then just some of the steps that they get into about why you should do it. Start with your business objectives and goals. You've got to take a look at everyone that's going to be using the headless commerce platform and what are their pain points, what's slowing them down, things like that. map out your ideal architecture, assess your risks, get your priorities, and then start creating your roadmap. Then start building, and then migrate your data. And then I think the last step here is just back up and test. So just make sure you have all your data in, and then you're going to test and make sure like you've actually accomplished that headless commerce migration.
Yeah, I think it's really nicely laid out. It's obviously simplified, but not too much. I think like it covered like the main steps of a migration.
Yeah.
I think one point here that was interesting to me, and I think important as well, what are the predicted ongoing costs and compared to current costs, right? And again, with a monolith, this is why, again, I was talking about sort of the off-ramp with Sitecore, right? Is there an off-ramp for those on Content Hub to those to go to Content Hub 1? One is on-premise, one is sort of you're kind of locked into the Sitecore ecosystem. Content Hub 1, I imagine, it's cloud-based, it API first, it seems. Maybe more, it enables you to sort of build with other sort of products around it, or integrate other products around it that are outside of Sitecore. That kind of stuff needs to be thought about, like for those on Content Hub, for example. So the ongoing cost, or particular ongoing cost of doing a migration, is super, super important. And if you are moving from monolith to a microservices architecture, or a Mac architecture, or headless architecture, more often than not, you're going to find savings because you can pick and choose your CMS here, your commerce platform there, your personalization platform here, and now we take CRM. You can pick and choose them depending on what you need, rather than buying into that sort of large monolithic package where you're paying a large, annual fee perhaps to get products that, maybe the CRM isn't exactly how you'd like it to be. You'd like to use another CRM in the market, but you're already kind of paying for it as part of the monolith. So yeah, it's a very important. There's some important calculations that need to be made there. And if you know the kind of platforms you want to be using, you can literally calculate your costs based on that. And then you can also say to yourself, hey, if things change 6 months, 8 months down the line, we can get rid of X, Y, and Z platform and just scale down. Whereas again, with a monolith, you can't easily do that, right? You've purchased what you purchased and you've got what you got, and now you've got it until the contract is done. So yeah, the cost is a really big thing here. And what I'd like to see from maybe Front Commerce or another vendor in the future is comparing those costs, monolithic costs, to like a best of breed architecture cost, and just sort of seeing the pros and cons there. But a good article. I enjoyed that article. Okay, I think that's a wrap up then, Andres. I think we're good.
Yeah, I think we're good today. Covered a lot of stuff.
Okay, cool. Thanks again for your time.
No problem.
There we go.